Performing for me was not just about doing the right steps properly and perfectly, it was absolutely more than that. It was about imagination and getting into a character that's not of your own. Hi, I'm Deborah Lemuel, and throughout my years, I have enjoyed doing many things in life. And in this channel, we get to share works, processes, insights, tips, and even advice on art, movement, and nature, and how all these things harmoniously connect with each other. And if you find these episodes helpful, you are very much welcome to subscribe and like this video to help other people get access to meaningful content such as this one. As promised from my last video, today we will start dissecting each and every field that I've studied and experienced throughout my life. And from these fields, I will share learnings, realizations, and tips that we can pick up from the many flops that I've done. Yes, I will be starting with failures, limitations, and that innate feeling of inadequacy. As mentioned in the last video, a lot of the adults in my life, most especially my mom, helped pave my way towards creative success through encouragement and support. But it was only when I started training that I realized a big lack in my strength, knowledge, resources, and confidence. And because of that lack, I got motivated to crawl towards the wellspring of creativity. Mind you, the resources of inspiration were everywhere, as in everywhere. But it was only when I realized my limitations that I felt more motivated and more empowered to power through and to really think crazy ideas outside of the box. So before I get a bit emotional and maybe lost in overthinking, let's go to the main thing, which is number 1, dance. For this video, we will be discussing about 4 aspects of dance that resonated with me throughout the 17 years. Number 1 is skill and performance. So I started dancing as early as when my mom was able to put me on stage in church and in school. But my formal training really began with ballet, modern dance, and contemporary under teacher Ava Villanueva Ong. Eventually, I continued as a ballet scholar under the Philippine High School for the Arts and finished with a bachelor's degree in music, major in dance under the UP College of Music in Diliman. During those years, I received training and experience from the Cultural Center of the Philippines Dance School, Makiling Ballet, and the UP Dance Company. It was during high school that I was awakened to the many flaws that were not ballet compatible. I had a muscular and wide torso built, my feet were not naturally arched, and I had somewhat of a bulky set of arms. It may not seem obvious to a regular person, but it was a big deal for me in ballet. And during the weighing season, wherein we go to a weighing scale to check how heavy we were, I was usually, quote-unquote, the heaviest of all the girls in our major. After realizing all these flaws, I complained a lot. But at the same time, that also motivated me to think of ways to manage this current situation that I had. So I tried different diets, and this was actually my first step towards vegetarianism, although I was still eating chicken and fish during that time, but I stopped eating red meat all in all. I also had a love-hate relationship with my body during that time. We all know how puberty happens, right? And ultimately, I started to doubt my choice of becoming a ballet major. Nevertheless, it was a 4-year contract, so I tried to push my way through. Since I was not the most technically perfect or proficient dancer, I found other ways to elevate my performance on stage. I was able to tap my emotional side to get into better character for shows. Slowly, I gained a different kind of confidence, not with the physical capacity that my body type allowed me to have, but with the obvious limitations that I had to deal with. What I lacked in form and appearance, I made up for strength and deeper understanding of character. What I couldn't make fully beautiful with how I look, I compensated with storytelling and nonverbal communication with the audience. Performing for me was not just about doing the right steps properly and perfectly, it was absolutely more than that. It was about imagination and getting into a character that's not of your own. Sadly, I never got lead roles despite the hard work, except for when I was a senior wherein we were required to be lead characters in our own recital. But I was one of those dancers casted to help tie the transitions together or manage some rehearsal and cleaning work. I was consistently used to help build the show from behind the scenes. In a way, you can say I'm one of the reliable people in the studio. And it felt like it was because I channeled my creativity differently and through many obstacles. Second is choreography. Choreography for me is an act of creating or putting together movements in a stylized way, rhythm, form, and context. My choreography experience started very early with my solos at church when my dad, who is a missionary pastor, would include me to dance in the middle or at the beginning of his sermon series. Most of the time, I would just wing it, but there were times when I would stitch together some steps that I learned from class and then make a whole piece from those movement patches. In high school, one of the first lessons that we learned was about taking inspiration from mundane tasks and playing around with the idea of how differently it can be done. So we were given some basic choreographic concepts like space, shape, dynamics, and time. And with those concepts, we were given the liberty to distort, divert, and even transform those mundane movements into what we can call dance. Remember the tip from my last video about the toothbrush dance? Yeah. Later on, you were taught about symbolisms, metaphors, mime, stage formation to add layers to the group, solo, and pair dances that we were trying to create. And I noticed when I was younger, I liked filling up my blank choreographic space with movements that made kinetic sense, but not always understandable visually and conceptually. I like doing movements that showcase my own dancer's strength and agility, and I felt creative finding weird ways to move and shape the body. Most of the time, my teachers would ask me to explain the pieces that I make because most of the time, it seems like I like to say a lot of things through movement, but no clear message was actually being relayed. At the university, I became more attracted to contemporary dance and its adherence to traditional roots and metaphoric approaches or symbolisms. And during our dance composition and semiotics classes, I felt called to explore more prop work and set making as part of the dance composition process. I started to become more interested in the context of not just the pieces that I tried to make, but also to the context of the people who were about to watch. If I knew I would have non-dancer audiences, I would bring my understanding of their point of view to my creation. I would use dance to tell more stories rather than explore a lot of abstracted movements. And with that approach, I gravitated towards using simpler steps and playing with unisons in different forms, ways, and levels. But if I was aware that my audiences were from the dance community, I would try to be more explorative and experimental. But with that being said, I didn't veer too far from my storytelling style. I guess because being a Filipino, I was also drawn to a lot of stories. But I would usually allow myself to sometimes not even understand what I created. And that always showed when other people watched my works. And as a former perfectionist ballerina, this process was always excruciating and frustrating. I really had a history of short-temperedness, if you know what I mean. I even came to a point of seeing myself as a mediocre artist for not being able to see the point of the choreographies that I made. There was a point in time when I was trying to put up a graduation recital with my partner and later on started teaching dance that I started asking for other dancers to help me with my choreographic process. Although I did work with many dancers during my younger years, I always relied on my body vocabulary to create. For so long, I felt limited with my own body and the fact that I could not see myself unless I record a video. And during that time, I didn't really have a lot of video recording resources. As I used other bodies as my tools to create, I was open to a new set of limitations that I could explore. As I worked with other minds, my perspective widened. With my experience, I realized that all bodies are different, different people understand differently and execute things differently. And I'm not the one moving and feeling anymore. I was the one facilitating, directing, and to a certain extent, teaching. This was my first conscious experience and encounter with the idea of collaboration. It was both exciting and scary at the same time, and the control freak in me was always going bonkers. But on the flip side, the Finn and Jake side of me enjoyed the adventurous process. Fast forward to now during the pandemic, I was more aware of the limited space, costume resources, props resources, lights resources that I had at home. And it felt limiting. And I lacked the motivation to do anything. When it comes to actually creating something, I had to convince myself to want to do something about it. The idea of dancing at home wasn't really easy for me to accept, even if I was dancing for almost all my life. I don't know if you feel the same, but the home for me is a different place compared to a studio or a stage. But as the quarantine time prolonged, I eventually got convinced, or rather, strongly called to address this strong itch to dance. That's when I started exploring spaces in our house and shooting videos. No matter how awkward it felt and how more awkward it looked. It also helped that the dance company I was part of, the Aloy Dance Company, also explored doing some dance films as a way to continue work and to cope in the pandemic. For my own choreographic approach, I wanted to give more focus on the individual parts of the body and the intimacy of close-up shots. I ended up enjoying choreographing not only my own body but also the cinematography of things. And because I didn't have any formal training in film, I felt free to imitate and really stretch my perspective during creation. Now I was able to enjoy being a creator and a part of the audience at the same time while making my work. I also want to note that I'm not always as inspired as I sound to be. Sometimes I would just shoot for the sake of a project. Sometimes I just move because I have these recurring ideas in my head that don't give me peace when I don't do them. And sometimes I just want to attempt to give justice to the plans that I've done in the past and not say that I didn't do anything about it. Most of the time, the excitement during planning do not easily reflect in the actual creation process of filming and editing. Ultimately, what helped me was the recurring thought that if I don't do it, I'd regret letting my insecurities get the best of me. I'd rather patch up a mistake later on than get stuck with the idea of what if. Hi, so this is me 2 weeks after the episode was shot. I just wanted to let you know that this dance aspect of creativity, I've decided to divide it into two-part series. So you're gonna expect another video about dance 2 weeks after this. Yeah. So I'm just letting you know that there are so many things that I thought about this aspect, and having them just chunked up in one video would not suffice the learnings, and I might end up fumbling a lot. So this is me again letting you know that this is just part 1, there's another part 2. And if you do want some specific details to dance that you would want me to discuss, I would love to know in the comment section. Please let me know so that I can include it in the next video. So you will be seeing old shots of me also 2 weeks ago, and I guess new added videos depending on what you will request. So yeah, Deborah Lemuel here. Let me know how this video works. I'm still trying to figure things out. If you're someone who knows me personally, you would know that I would put a lot of thought into what I'm creating, and sometimes I might not seem very natural when I talk on cam compared to when I talk to you personally. So I really would love to know your feedback and your thoughts about me, whether you know me personally or not. Let me know so that I can keep on improving these videos for you guys, especially those who would really love to learn and have a try on your own to, learning from other people's experience is almost today as valid as going to school. It's just a matter of being able to understand what other people are saying and being able to grasp the learning that comes with any material or any story or anything that a person would share. So again, let me know, and I look forward to seeing you again 2 weeks after now. So yeah. Consider subscribing and becoming active in the comment section. This will really be a good way to build bridges, especially during these times of isolation. Remember to keep exploring. Life always brings surprises to those who are open to receive. And until the next one, I'll see you then. Bye!